The Rowe brothers grew up in Jackson, Tennessee.
My grandfather owned a farm up there where the University of Tennessee is now.
J.C. Rowe was the third of 7 boys. He now lives in the Westover community, only about 3 miles from that family farm.
Daddy was a sweet person. He loved his family, and he knowed he's poor. He knew we was poor, but we always had something to eat somewhere or another. But hadn't been for them grandmas and grandpas, those times would have been rough.
J.C. got his draft notice in 1944.
Gosh, it's been a long time ago.
His 2 older brothers were already in the war.
We took a train from here to Fort Oglethorpe, and a train from there out of the station up in Chattanooga.
That train took him to Florida for training. He later boarded a ship to Le Havre, France. I
have heard people late in the night, just hear somebody kind of don't know what they're crying for, but you could hear them crying, and sometimes it'll set off chain reaction, and we're just kids.
He arrived in France in January 1945 for the last few months of the war in Europe.
The thing that got me when I first went into combat area, we went into a staging area where they had dead Germans on one side and dead GIs on the other. And that's when I began to get so scared and tremble.
He says he dropped to his knees and prayed, and he says from that point forward, he was calmer. He spent the rest of the war in rear echelon support and then worked at a hospital in a camp that held German prisoners.
If anybody died, we would take them to their home town to be buried.
He also went to take care of the people who were liberated from Nazi prison camps, including the camp at Dachau.
It was another world. It's hard to believe it. Things like that happened.
And so many of those memories have not faded with time.
I can shut my eyes and see it. I can shut my eyes and see the gas room.
J.C. says there were challenging times during the war, but after the war, he re-enlisted and stayed in the Army, then came home and served in the reserves.
We were so proud. We were so proud when we come back home. I come back home and that uniform you see right there, I was strutting that uniform, man.
In 1951, Uncle J.C. went to work for the Tennessee Highway Patrol and stayed there for 27 years.